Hello, salam, shalom, namaste, sat sri akal, aloha, hola, ciao, bonjour, buna, and privyet. It's really, really good to be with you again, and I know you'll be so happy you've joined us because you have a very special guest today, and it's Donna Liza. And Donna is a master mindset coach and an RTT practitioner. That's a rapid transformational therapy practitioner. I'm so excited to have you with us today, Donna. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Donna, and I help emerging female leaders be free from self-sabotage so they can achieve their next level success and make even bigger waves in their business through rapid mindset recoding.
I love it. I love it. And so let's jump right in and tell me more about when you think about one of the big problems that you help your clients with, what comes up for you?
Yeah, so I actually started with kind of high performance coaching. And what I encountered was that there was always something that was getting in the way of clients achieving their goals and actually taking any action. And then I thought, well, this is like really strange. Like, what is going on? I mean, they take little actions, but then they stop, and there's something really holding them back. And this is why I deep dived into the whole mindset thing to just really find out and figure out what is getting in the way of people taking the action that they need to the things that they believe or they think that they want, really. So as I did this, I then encountered the self-sabotage, and this is really comes in a lot of different ways. It could be procrastination, it could be perfectionism, it could be imposter syndrome, it could just be fear. You might be afraid of success or failure, rejection, abandonment. There's so many different things. And your mind is always going to be getting in your way, or like you're kind of getting in your own way in a sense, because your mind is really designed to protect you and keep you safe. And if it's something is a bit scary, it's like, are you sure you really want to do that? And then you stop yourself and you think, oh, maybe I'll just do something else, maybe I'll just create that content. I mean, one of the clients that I had, she was just creating
Mm.
hundreds of content. She just had this in her PC for 6 months. She was creating content, but none of it ever came out. And it's like, what's going on, but she was just stopping herself. And it's like, well, when I've got this one right, when I've got that one right, then it's perfect. And then I can, bring it out.
Mm.
And but it goes much deeper than that, because actually it's got nothing to do with the content. It's got nothing to do with whether you've got the perfect copywriting or you've got the perfect picture. And it's got something to do with how you're feeling inside. And I just found that in order for my clients to really push on and move forward fearlessly and easily and effortlessly, they need to find out what is getting in the way. And usually there is something that has gone on that they have forgotten. And it could be something in their childhood that it could have been just as easy as one person to saying to them, oh, yeah, your project's no good.
Mm.
That's not good enough, which equates to when you're, say, 8 years old, someone tells you your project is not good enough. It equates to, I am not good enough.
Mm.
And that's really what it is. There's a lot of childhood trauma that we experience, which I actually didn't even realize. I always thought, oh, it must be, maybe you had to be in a really bad accident, or you broke your bones, or, you know, um, someone abducted you, or something really major happened to you to cause that trauma. But we've got to understand, when you're 1 or 2 or 3, It could be as easy as your mother doesn't have time for you. Yeah, later on, because I just need to make dinner. Or you've got other siblings and, they get more attention than you. No
Mm,
one listens to you. No one talks to you. No one cares about you. And those little things, it could be just the one time, or it could be the little repeated times. And
mm,
all of that in our mind when you're 1, 2, 3 years old, whatever age you are, as a child, you translate that in your child mind and think, it's me. There
mm,
is something wrong with me.
yeah.
And that's really what I found. And I could only really find that out through these deeper understandings through doing rapid transformational therapy, learning from my from Marissa Peer, who created this amazing modality, and it's so unique. And I think sometimes, or like all the time, we think we know, but subconsciously there's something else going on behind the scenes. And so this is what I always work with my clients. It's not just about, okay, here are your goals. Of course, you've got to have clarity. You have to have, uh, you have to know where you want to go,
Yeah.
basically. You can't just go through life and go, oh yeah, I'm just, I want to set up a business, like what kind of business, and things like that. You have to have the motivation, but willpower only takes us so far. There
Right.
comes a point where it's like, okay, I've gone. And then what else? So, and this is why when you learn about the subconscious mind and engage the subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind helps us, and it actually runs 95% of our day. So if
Yeah.
you could imagine that and harness the power of that, and make your subconscious mind understand that, hang on a minute, I'm not 2 years old anymore. I am not helpless. I am not useless. That is not me. And when your subconscious mind understands that, and heals from that and moves on, and then you can reprogram your mind with something else, because that's in, our mind is just a bunch of programming, and everything that we consume, goes in. If you're hanging out with certain people and they're always really negative, you are going to turn negative. You are who you hang out with. So we have to be really careful about what we consume, because that stops us. All of the things in like social media, and then coaches think, oh, you have to be this amazing, beautiful, bubbly, skinny person to be successful, because that's what you see. But
Mm,
it's just a snapshot. But your mind goes, oh, I know. Yeah, you can't go on video because you need to lose 10 more pounds.
mm,
You can't go on video because your teeth is a bit crooked. No one cares about you. No one's going to listen to you. No one's going to tune into you. Why would they want to even, and all of these thoughts go on in our mind all the time. And they say by research, up, 60,000 thoughts in a day,
mm,
which is like 80% of them are negative. And
mm,
we need that. We need the fear to keep us safe. But sometimes, well, most of the time, it's not true. And we don't actually need it. And
mm,
so this is why it's so important for people to recognize that when you're trying to achieve something, yes, you do need to know where you're going, but you also need to recognize and really raise your self-awareness to say, oh, okay, I'm not taking action. I'm watching too much Netflix. I am redesigning my website 5, 6 times. I'm not pressing that send button. I'm writing this post like, so many times, and rewriting and rewriting. I'm just like, I'm just saving it. And then it goes into draft. And next thing you know, that you've got 100 posts that never makes the light of day. You buy another course, and it
mm,
goes into this freebie graveyard that you've got. And even those like tiny little things, it's like, when I've done this, after I pass my NLP, I will be better.
Mm.
When I've got my degree, I will be better. And you're always constantly comparing yourself to other people and thinking that when you have more, you can be more and you are, this other better person. And actually, the only competition you have is with yourself, you
Mm.
know? And I think people need to kind of recognize that, because there's so many things going on that we're not really aware of. And, I mean, where do you even start? And I think just being self-aware and being like, oh, hang on a minute, I'm doing that again, and once you know what you're constantly doing or in the habit of doing, then you can really kind of like stop yourself and go, oh, okay, I'm going to do something else, and make that decision and make the choice, because you do have the ability to make a conscious decision. But when you're on autopilot and you don't even recognize that you're on autopilot, then you can't stop yourself and go, oh, right, okay, done, need to do something else, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I am, wow, you brought up so many really, really excellent points. And this idea of the subconscious mind versus willpower, and, I know for a long time, like, maybe, this is something that's been changing, and I don't know how much it has come into the mainstream. Um, but I know when I first started on my journey of personal development, most of the learning that I was consuming, the content that I was consuming around personal development, it was so focused on, you know, like the willpower aspect of
Mhm.
things and trying to use your willpower to create change in your life. And I struggled with that so much. And I blamed myself when I failed in those processes. And um, it was, I don't know, I feel like for me, it was a little bit like, you know, the blessing of God that God steered me towards other people, other teachers with other approaches, who understood more about the power of the subconscious, and, started to learn about some of these techniques that help, reprogram your mind, retrain your mind more uh, from this perspective of healing the subconscious and so forth. And I found that I made so much more progress that way, and so much more easy also to
Yeah.
create the change that you want. And now I'm like, I feel like I'm surrounded by people who have this thought and perspective, and it's sort of like, I guess, like I said, I'm not sure how much people in the mainstream are in tune with this anymore. So sometimes I don't have enough appreciation for, the like I just, I'm like, oh yeah, this is the truth. This is the reality of how things work for us. And I don't appreciate enough that maybe not enough people know about this, and they're still struggling with those old paradigm ways of doing things. So maybe, you can tell me a little bit more about this new paradigm that you use with the rapid transformational therapy, and how it differs for you in practice. Maybe you can give us some examples um, of how like concretely help somebody who's dealing with self-sabotage, like the example you were giving of the client who kept creating content. Like, how did you actually help her shift out of that? Hey, thanks for tuning into this episode. Hope you're getting value out of it. For your information, this episode has been sponsored by the Happiness 101 program. Are you a change maker, coach, trainer, or healer? Are chains of fear holding you back from making the impact and income you desire? Using a unique combination of positive psychology and the spiritual wisdom of our most effective change makers, the Happiness 101 program helps you break through your limiting beliefs and manifest the abundance and success you desire with fun and ease. Interested? Book a free Happiness 101 exploration call with me, your happiness expert, Samia Bano. Just use my online calendar link in the show notes. Now, back to the show.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting you kind of brought up the whole thing about the subconscious mind, because I think most people are not really aware. And to be honest with you, I didn't really know anything about hypnotherapy before I started the whole process. And in fact, a few years ago, I heard one of my colleagues at the time, and she was like, "Oh, I'm going to go to see a hypnotherapist because I want to stop smoking." And then and I was thinking, oh, I don't really want anybody going into my mind and controlling what I'm thinking and telling me what to do. Because if you probably have seen on TV these stage hypnotists, and they're like making people act like chickens, and I had that in my mind. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to go into hypnotherapy and someone's going to tell me what to do, and I'm going to do all these silly things. And to be honest with you, it's nothing like that at all. And it is so misunderstood. And yes, definitely there is a technique for stage hypnosis, and certain percentage of people are actors that want to do those things. And if you don't want to do something, you really cannot be forced. You have to be ready. And the thing about the rapid transformational therapy is that it combines different modalities, and actually it's not just about I'm going to reprogram your mind. It's about, in this instance, for example, with my client with the imposter syndrome that was coming through. Actually, there were a lot of other things, not just the imposter syndrome, but that was one of them. But so, we obviously had to talk through in quite in depth what the symptoms are, because usually you don't know what's going on inside you. But you do know that you are doing certain things, right? You have these symptoms, like you're not taking action. You are turning down all sorts of invitations. You are just writing things, like I said, creating your website, all of those things. You know what you are doing.
Right.
But behind those things that you are doing are thoughts. And those thoughts are actually what is running your actions and your behaviors. So you have to then go, okay, so this is what I'm doing. So my client would tell me all of the symptoms that they're doing. And then from the symptoms, then I can kind of get a bit of a picture of what's going on. Then one of the other things that's quite important as well is not just the symptoms. We always ask about the childhood. What was your childhood like? Because that actually has so much bearing in us. From 0 to 8 years old, we are in a theta brainwave state, which means that we are open. You hear these people going, oh, children are like sponges. They will just take in everything. And that's the same with when I talk to my daughter sometimes, and even when she was like 2 or 3, and she would say these things. I'm like, how did you even know this? Like, you're 2, 3 years old. Like, I didn't talk to you about this, and they just take in everything in their environment. And what they do is they make sense of it in their child's mind. And so it's always so important to ask that person. We always find out, I always find out from my client, what's your childhood like? And even though, and a lot of the time I'll get like my clients who will go, oh yeah, actually, it was pretty good. And then you find out that the dad left, and yeah, my dad left, but my mom did as the best that she could, and she gave us the best childhood that I could, and I can't really complain. And yes, your adult mind can process that and think that that was okay. She did the best that she could, but your child's mind didn't think like that. It
Mm,
thought, my dad left me, it must be me.
mm,
So actually, it's very, very important to go back and find out. We always go through regression. So we go back to the root cause and we try and investigate and go back to some scenes in the childhood once we're doing the RTT session and figure out what are the things that happen. And from those scenes, it's like we need to figure out what the beliefs are behind the thoughts. You see, all the things that we think about, there are beliefs behind it. So with my client was thinking, I'm not good enough, you
mm,
know, um, to have all of those. And that in that belief behind all of the actions and all of the thoughts was that she didn't feel good enough. And, she believed that because all of these bad things happened to her in childhood, that is all she deserved, that she didn't deserve the success. She didn't deserve to have a better life. She didn't deserve any of this. And even though actually her life was quite good, really, you couldn't really complain about what it is, with her life. But there were always going to some actions that was like sabotaging that, just push back. It's like, no, I can't have this, there's it, our mind can't hold conflicting beliefs. One part of you wants this success, but another part of you believes you don't deserve it. How are you going to get it?
mm,
So we have to investigate what is actually going on deep down. What are the beliefs inside? And so it incorporates those things that you probably wouldn't say talk therapy when you're doing, say, CBT. You're always analyzing all, what you're thinking that is affecting the behaviors. And inherent that is kind of what the thing that we do as well is we investigate and look at the thoughts and look at the behaviors, and then but we look at the beliefs that are driving the thoughts,
mm,
because ultimately, if you believe that you don't deserve something, your actions are always going to be towards the fact that you don't deserve it.
mm,
So of course you're not going to take any action. Why would you? You don't deserve to have what you want because you are not good enough. So you are going to stop yourself, whether that's creating content and, whether that's, or I actually found, in myself, because I struggled with video to begin with. I struggled doing lives and then things like that. I actually had an RTT session myself on this visibility, right? And it's such a big thing, because I'm like, oh, I just can't press that send button. I can't do it. Just like you stop yourself. And when we went through the scenes, when I went through the scenes and I went through the beliefs, I actually, and one of the scenes, I'm gonna tell you one of the scenes. It was actually when I was about 8 years old, and we went to the beach. And I don't think my mom was there. I can't really remember, but I was there with the lady that was looking after us, and I couldn't swim. Okay, so I was on a floaty thing, just kind of lounging like this, and then and the tide was coming in. So the nanny that was looking after us, kind of just like, she went to swim towards me, and
mm,
then she went like this to the floaty, and it flipped me over. And of course, I fell in the water. I
mm,
couldn't swim. So I was sunk to the bottom and I pushed myself up because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm little. And I could see the top of the water. I managed to push myself up. And when I got up above the water, she was like laughing at me. She didn't even grab me. She just left me. She was just like, and I was thinking, oh my God, like I can't swim. I don't know what's, and then I just fell down again, and I fell down. And then when I pushed myself back up again and I hit the barge on my head, and I was like, oh my God. And then that pushed me down again. And then I hit a coral, my feet, my foot hit a coral. So I was in pain and I couldn't breathe, you're drowning, right? And no one cared. And one of the scenes was that, and you think, well, actually, that explains the fact that I don't like the water, logically, right? But what does this have to do with me not wanting to go on video?
Yeah.
Okay. And you think, this is so weird. Why? What does that mean? But then when we dive deeper and looked at the beliefs, my beliefs were, I'm not important. I don't matter. No one cares about me. I could have died and no one was there to save me. No one wants to listen to me. No one sees me. Do you see? And so, of course, I don't want to go on video. I don't want to be seen because no one's going to listen to me. No one's going to see me. So it is so fascinating what you find in there, because it doesn't even necessarily mean that it's something that you would ever consider, that means something. But whenever we're doing something, whenever something is happening to us, our mind in that split second goes through all of your memories and will go, okay, let's just make sense of this. What does this relate to? And then it picks all of these various scenes. Oh, this must mean that this is what she is, this is what's happening. And then you're starting to feel these emotions, this energy and motion, because then you're like, oh my God, then you're like starting to be afraid and things. And then you label that emotion as a feeling. Okay. And so, that's why it's actually, really important, I think, to be able to understand. And so whenever I work with my clients, of course, we always incorporate that aspect of working with the subconscious mind, because you have to flip the switch. You have to reframe those beliefs, but not just consciously, because yes, you can. Don't get me wrong. You can do that so much harder. It takes so long. And I have had clients that have been in years in therapy and they're still nowhere near. And I mean, spending thousands a year on therapy and nowhere near figuring out what was wrong with them in the first place.
Yeah.
And so and that's what's really fascinating about it. And one of the coaches that I actually was speaking with, I mean, she had RTT session with one of my peers, and I said to her, oh, how did it go? And she did one on money blocks, and she said, oh, yeah, no, it was really great. And I actually talked to my psychologist about it, and she said to me, oh my gosh, what you found out in that one session is equivalent to a whole year session with me. That's how much you find out. And I mean, this session, usually my sessions, like a one-to-one session will be like 90 minutes. Sometimes it's like 2 hours. It goes like this. You're like in quantum field. You don't even realize that you've been in there for 2 hours and you find out so much. But you don't necessarily, it's different. The result is different for everybody, because there are really three types of results. Some people have instant result. Some people have cumulative results. So, little by little, things are changing. Then some people don't even realize that they've changed. Then one day, years later, they look back and go, hang on a minute, I don't want to do that anymore. I had a client that I was working with, and she was already like so, successful, really, with whatever it was she was doing. She was working with people with trauma, and she was even invited to go to TV, for an interview. And she just froze. And anyway, she came to me about imposter syndrome. And, we were kind of like looking at what was going on kind of behind the scenes, and it's really fascinating because you never really know. You never you think you know, but you never really know. And but once your mind then goes, oh, I see. I was like 2 years old back then. Hello, I'm like in my 30s now, I think it's time for me to grow up, kind of thing. And we do those reframing through your subconscious mind. So I do the coaching, and the reprogramming afterwards is really towards the end. But the whole digging, it's so important, I think, for you to understand, because you can't heal what you don't understand. And that is really the first step to healing, is that even when you do talk therapy, you analyze the situation. But I think where it goes wrong is the fact that when you are in talk therapy, your mind is constantly like in a loop of this certain thing, and it's stuck there. But you're not really getting to the grips of why it's on that loop of getting stuck there, or you could stop yourself or not really say exactly, because you might be afraid that this therapist will be, I don't know, judging you. This person is a loony. So I better not say that. I better tell this person what she thinks, what I think she wants to hear. And you can do that consciously. You can make those decisions consciously. Subconsciously, though, you can't, there's always so many things. I mean, I've tried talk therapy myself, and it didn't really work for me, because I always found that when I got to, I knew what it was that was stopping me already. But when it was going to come up, I just could not speak. I couldn't say anything, no word, no nothing. And I would just sit there and cry. I want to talk. My mind is going, come on, you got to do this. You got to do this. And your conscious mind's like, willpower. Talk to her, tell her what's going on. You need to do this. How many years do you have to bottle it in? Subconscious mind's going, no way. You're not saying anything. We're not doing anything. And you can't. You just can't. You can't override that, because your subconscious mind is there to keep you safe. And I think, and that's why we have to get the subconscious mind on board. And there are obviously certain techniques you can force it. Of course, you can do all of that. You have to just be consistent with it. Obviously, you have to repeat yourself and be repetitive about what you're doing until it becomes habit. But that's the thing. The key is that people give up too soon. Okay. You're like, oh God, I've been doing this for like 2 months now and nothing's happening, and then you give up. And it's like, maybe in a week's time, that could have been it, and it could have been habit. And so, so there's a few layers. There's so many different layers to it. But really, until you go in there and have a look at what's going on, you could just be like, oh, it's like this, it's like that. And, so many people are like, oh, tell me what it is about a client. I had a client who had an eating disorder, and you could like talk to people who like deal with people with eating disorders, and they say to you, oh, it's this, it's that, it's that. Yeah, maybe. But does that apply to my client? I don't know, because the thing is that my client knows. My client's subconscious knows. I don't need to ask anyone else but the subconscious mind. We don't need to put ourselves in a box and go, this is it. I have some clients that are like, oh, I'm bipolar. And it's like, okay, because, they recognize certain symptoms, because sometimes they're really depressed and sometimes they're really manic, and just self-diagnose because they all the symptoms look similar, but how do you really know? How do you really know? It's everyone is so different. Like, I don't even begin to say, oh, I know what's going on with you. Because I just don't. You don't. They don't. You don't. And it's not my job is to help my client be a problem solver. They, to have that ability to go in there and solve their own problems. I'm not there to solve it for them and tell them what to do. They are there to be able to unlock the power of their subconscious mind so that helps them. And yes, part of it will be reprogramming your mind, but it's also based on what do you want? We will align your strategy with your mindset, with the transformation recording that you're going to get afterwards, of course, but it's all their own words. It's all, everything that they want to do. We've got to, break that cycle like you would in, when they talk about, say, NLP, is, you've got like this neural pathway, and say you wake up every morning, the first thing that you do is you make coffee and you drink it, and it's so thick because you've been doing that for years, and so what then you do is you just interrupt that pattern, and then you go to your mind, okay, well, I'm going to stop drinking coffee because caffeine is giving me like heart palpitations. It's not really good for me, and my doctor said, please stop, because you're having 4 sugars with it as well, it's no good. So I'm going to change it to green tea. And that's easier because you're still having a drink, you're just changing a different drink. But when you're doing something and you're changing the action, you really then have to keep doing that action, right? You keep doing that action. And so when you then tell your subconscious mind, hey, subconscious mind, what I really want to do is I want to stop drinking coffee and having those 4 sugars with it. I want to start drinking tea and then do my meditation after drinking tea. Before I even have breakfast, I want to do all of this. And then you then do that and repeat that until your path becomes so thick and so much thicker that it overpowers the previous one, because that one's disconnected. You reconnect the new one. We have this amazing ability. Our mind has this elasticity that it just, we can create these new habits just by by doing things consistently and just being really doing it every day as often as you can until it becomes like you're driving. You learn how to drive, you're like, oh, the gear, the clutch, looking at my mirrors and all of that, and then eventually you don't even think about those. You just like end up home, you end up where you want to go, and you don't even think about that anymore because it becomes habit. And that's what we really want. Once we have figured out what is stopping us, then we figure out the beliefs that are doing that, we reframe it, and then we put in new beliefs, because that's important. You can't just take it away. You get this hole, right? And you're like, oh, I've taken out this thorn on my side and it's great because now I feel a bit of relief, but then there's a hole there. You've got to fill it in. You can't just like leave it there. So you've got to give yourself new beliefs that, you believe that you are important, that you are enough, that you are lovable, that you are significant, that you deserve and you are worthy of the success that you want in your life. And that is freedom. When you can be who you have always been, because we were born a blank slate. But obviously we came here for a purpose. I believe came here for a purpose and a mission, and we've forgotten all of that, because on top of this person that you were, this soul and this little baby is just like waiting for the body to catch up with the soul, and then you're covered with these layers of conditioning and programming and, your environment and this and that. And then you don't know anything. So you have to peel away those layers to begin with, to get to who you are and realize that deep down, you have always been that amazing person, that and that you deserve everything, because you are constantly creating, you are constantly manifesting the life that you want. But if your vibration and if your thoughts and your beliefs are driving the wrong type of energy, of course, you're going to get that. You're going to get those horrible, little unlucky things happening in your life, because that's what you're calling in. It's so important, I think, for us to be able to do that. So when there always be an element with my programs, with my clients, that we will be doing the RTT, but then of course there will be the coaching, because after that you always have to be like, okay, now that's behind us, now let's move forward.
Yeah.
Okay, because this is what we do. We live on purpose, with purpose, on purpose. We need to be moving on, because otherwise you're stuck in the old story, and you can't be doing that. You need to be creating. And so once they're ready and primed, and the mind's like, yeah, right, okay, I've got this new belief, then your strategy and your mindset, and you've all reprogrammed and you're aligned, then the actions come. Then you're like, okay, right, let's go to the next post, and it's just like really amazing, because I have like this 3-month program, and usually time just collapsed, and it's like a month and they've like achieved everything, and they're always like, okay, now what? What are we gonna do now? Because they've achieved it, and it's just fascinating to for them to be able to see that and go, oh right, okay, I can do this. And so I think I so believe that how important it is to really know what's going on and have your subconscious really helping you, because like you said before, it makes things easy. And because you're not fighting yourself against this other old beliefs. And I think that's why I'm always like, we have to use and understand and use the power of our subconscious mind to really propel and just quantum leap. Never mind this like little tiny action and stuff. If you're there and you're just like, right, okay, you're like constantly on the go, and you just like you just keep moving forward. And I think it's all about that. That's what we want, really, is to get keep moving forward.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Donna, you keep dropping so many amazing bits of wisdom. And I want to follow up with you on so many things. And we have run out of time for today. So unfortunately, we do have to wrap up for now. Do you have any last words to share?
Oh yeah, so I mean, I just want to say to anyone who who are trying to achieve something, I just want you to know that there is nothing wrong with you. Okay. And you know whatever the things are that happened to you back then, that wasn't your fault. But as an adult, you can do something about it, and your power lies in your ability to choose
Yeah.
and make a decision
Mm,
right now to do something about it, because as an adult, you are responsible for changing your programming.
yeah.
So that's all I wanted to say.
I love it. I love it. That such an empowering note for us to wrap up today. Thank you again so much, Donna, for
Thank
sharing
you.
all of your time and wisdom. And I'm just going to remind all of our listeners to please check the show notes, because we'll be dropping Donna's links there so you can reach out to her and connect with her and get the help and support that you need whenever you're ready for it. So until we connect next time, I wish you lots and lots of peace and joy.